In the quiet town of Fallbrook, where shadows danced ominously, lived a young lady named Evelyn. She had grown up hearing cryptic tales about a curse that haunted her family, a curse of witches that had lingered for generations. Despite the warnings, Evelyn paid little attention to the stories, dismissing them as mere superstitions. One fateful evening, as the moon cast an eerie glow over Fallbrook, strange occurrences began to unfold. Whispers echoed through the corridors of Evelyn's ancestral home, and shadows seemed to dance with a life of their own. The air became heavy with an otherworldly presence, sending shivers down her spine. In the heart of the night, a portal manifested within the ancient walls of the family estate. From its depths emerged a grotesque creature, a monster from the darkest corners of the supernatural realm. Its form was an amalgamation of nightmares, its eyes glowing with an unsettling malevolence. The creature spoke with a voice that resonated through the very fabric of reality. The time has come for the sacrifice. Fear gripped Evelyn's heart as she realized the gravity of her family's curse. The creature explained that the only way to break the ancient spell was through a sacrifice, a pact that had been ignored by her ancestors for too long. The ominous truth was now staring her in the face, and she had no choice but to confront the legacy that had been haunting her family for generations. Determined to unravel the mysteries of her past, Evelyn delved into forbidden tombs and ancient manuscripts hidden in the depths of the family library. As she deciphered the cryptic texts, she uncovered a tale of betrayal, dark rituals, and a pact made in desperation. With each revelation, the supernatural forces intensified, casting a veil of horror over Fallbrook. The creature's whispers grew louder, and the boundary between the living and the supernatural blurred. In a climactic confrontation, Evelyn faced the creature in a ritual that would either break the curse or seal her fate. The ancestral home became a battleground between the forces of darkness and the resilience of one determined soul. As Evelyn stood in the dimly lit chamber, surrounded by the echoes of incantations and the haunting presence of the creature, she felt the weight of generations upon her shoulders. The ritual demanded courage, and she drew strength from the stories of her ancestors who had faced similar trials. The air crackled with energy as Evelyn chanted the incantations passed down through the ages. Symbols glowed in an ethereal light, creating a barrier between the supernatural realm and the mortal world. The creature thrashed and roared, its monstrous form contorting as it struggled against the ancient magic. In the midst of the struggle, ghostly apparitions manifested, forgotten souls bound by the curse. They whispered words of encouragement, urging Evelyn to persevere. The supernatural forces unleashed by the ritual intensified, creating a tempest of shadows and ethereal energy. As the climax of the ritual approached, Evelyn glimpsed fleeting images of her ancestors, their faces etched with both despair and hope. The weight of their unfulfilled destinies pressed upon her, but she forged ahead, determined to break the cycle that had plagued her family for so long. In a surge of blinding light, the ritual reached its zenith. The creature let out a final guttural scream as the supernatural bonds restraining it tightened. The ancestral home quivered, and then, as swiftly as it had come, the portal collapsed, leaving only silence in its wake. Evelyn stood in the aftermath, panting and disoriented. The once ominous atmosphere lifted, replaced by an eerie calm. The whispers that had haunted her family for generations faded into the echoes of the past. The cursed legacy of the witches was broken, and Fallbrook was free from the grip of the supernatural. The town, once shrouded in darkness, basked in the soft glow of the moon, as if nature itself celebrated the end of a long-forgotten curse. As dawn approached, Evelyn emerged from the ancestral home, the weight lifted from her shoulders. The townspeople, unaware of the supernatural ordeal, continued their lives, blissfully ignorant of the horrors that had unfolded in the shadows. Evelyn, however, carried the lessons of her family's past with her. She became a guardian of the ancient knowledge, ensuring that the stories of Fallbrook's haunted history were never forgotten. The whispers of the cursed past were now replaced by the tales of resilience, courage, and the triumph of light over darkness. And so the young lady who once ignored the warnings of her family became the beacon that dispelled the ominous shadows that had plagued Fallbrook for centuries. In the remote village of Acorn Hollow, where the air hung heavy with an ominous stillness, lived an old couple. The The Mordens. They were known to harbor secrets that transcended the boundaries of the natural world. Whispers of the supernatural clung to the couple like shadows, but they presented themselves as benign caretakers of a peculiar game. One fateful evening, a curious tourist named Samuel arrived in Acorn Hollow, drawn by tales of mystery and the macabre. The Mordens, sensing an opportunity, invited Samuel into their ancient home, nestled among gnarled trees and obscured by an unnatural fog. As Samuel entered, the air grew dense with an otherworldly presence. The Mordens, with cunning smiles, explained the rules of the game, a game that spanned the realms of the living and the dead. Samuel, fueled by a mix of curiosity and bravado, agreed to participate, believing it to be a mere local custom. The old couple led Samuel to a chamber adorned with eerie symbols and flickering candles. In the center lay a clay tablet inscribed with ancient runes and a weathered spellbook. The Mordens instructed Samuel to read aloud the incantations from the clay tablet, thinking it was all part of the enigmatic game. As Samuel recited the words, the atmosphere shifted. Unbeknownst to him, the incantations were a conduit between the living and the deceased. The ground trembled beneath Acorn Hollow as the graves in the nearby cemetery stirred with unearthly energy. The tourist, still engrossed in the ritual, saw the deceased emerge from their graves in a ghastly procession. Wraith-like figures, cloaked in mist, clawed their way into the moonlit night. The once silent cemetery now echoed with the haunting sounds of spectral footsteps. Samuel, realizing the gravity of the situation, attempted to halt the incantation, but it was too late. The boundary between the living and the dead had been breached, and Acorn Hollow became a realm where the supernatural and mortal converged. In the midst of the spectral assembly, the Mordens' true intentions became clear. Their laughter echoed through the night as they reveled in the chaos they had unleashed. The tourist, now trapped in a game beyond his comprehension, faced the consequences of his unwitting participation. As the deceased wandered through Acorn Hollow, the old couple watched with satisfaction. The mystery, horror, and darkness that surrounded the village had become an all-encompassing reality, a haunting testament to the consequences of playing with forces beyond mortal understanding. The moon cast an eerie glow on Acorn Hollow as the spectral figures roamed freely, their ethereal forms drifting through the village streets. The old couple, still amused by the unfolding chaos, revealed their true nature as practitioners of dark magic, weaving a web that ensnared both the living and the dead. In the heart of a macabre dance between the realms, Samuel sought a way to rectify the grave mistake he had unwittingly unleashed. Guided by a sudden surge of intuition, he turned to the ancient spellbook, desperately searching for a reverse incantation. As Samuel flipped through the pages, he discovered a passage that held the key to closing the breach between the worlds. With a mixture of fear and determination, he recited the words, each syllable resonating with the power to mend the tear in the fabric of reality. The air crackled with energy as the incantation took effect. The deceased, once freed from their eternal slumber, began to retreat. Wisps of spectral essence re-entered the graves, and the unearthly procession gradually reversed, returning to the silence of the cemetery. The Mordens' expressions twisted from amusement to fury as they realized their scheme unraveling before their eyes. The supernatural energy that had engulfed Acorn Hollow began to dissipate, leaving only echoes of its dark presence. Samuel, having sealed the breach, faced the old couple with a stern resolve. The mysterious game had turned into a battle for the village's very existence, and he emerged as an unexpected hero in the face of the supernatural. The Mordens, now stripped of their illusory charm, watched as Acorn Hollow returned to its eerie but stable state. The shadows that clung to the village seemed to retreat, acknowledging the power that Samuel had harnessed to restore the natural order. With a newfound wisdom, Samuel left Acorn Hollow, carrying the weight of the supernatural encounter. The village, though forever marked by the events of that night, resumed its facade of quaint mystery, concealing the secrets that lingered beneath the surface. The old couple, thwarted in their attempt to play puppeteers with the realms, were left to ponder the consequences of their actions. The grave game had taught them that some mysteries were better left untouched, and the true horror lay not in the supernatural, but in the unpredictability of mortal choices.